Well, then what happened was in October, I shared this with Sheila Fedgeron, right? And she joined in that summer time frame. And in October, we showed it to Brent Gove, right? And he was very skeptical. He wasn't interested. Sheila cold called him, didn't even know him, and just said she's about to. She knew him because he was a speaker at this big event she had gone to, and she said, you know, I'm about to make the biggest decision of my real estate career. And she said, I respect you, I respect your opinion, and I want to do anything that's not going to be good. I want you to take a look at what I'm considering and give me your valued opinion because I value your opinion. And he said, sure, sure, little lady, I'll be happy to help you out. He said, you know, but I have no interest whatsoever. And so we set up a webinar for just Brent, myself, and Sheila. And then Brett wasn't even in his office, and Sheila called him 5 minutes before. This is really good to do. She called him 5 minutes before and said, hey, Brent, the webinar that you committed to is starting in 5 minutes. And he was at the Starbucks. He had completely blown it off, forgot, didn't matter. But he said, oh, you're right, sorry, I'll be right there. And he said he immediately jumped into his car, raced back to his office, turned it back on, and he said to us, before we got started, he says, Sheila and Rob, because she introduced me to him. He didn't know who I was, and I didn't know who he was. And he said, I want you guys to know that I'll look at this under two conditions. And we said, sure, whatever. And he said, number one, I'm not going to buy anything you have to sell. Number two, I'm not going to change companies. I love where I'm at. And if that's okay, then go ahead. And we said, yeah, no problem, fine. We just want to get your opinion, dude. And so we showed it to him. 20 minutes into the deal, he stops us and says, listen, I'm standing up at my desk. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I've been looking for something like this my entire life. Oh my God, I can't believe it, but I think I'm interested. And it just happened to be a week before our convention in San Antonio. So we said, well, Brent, if you want to meet everybody, all the players, all the executives, Glenn, Jason, all the top agents will all be in San Antonio next week for the convention, and you can go talk to all of them. And he said he would, and he brought James with him, and he brought another guy, right? So he came with two guys, and he told them, you guys go interrogate everybody that there is, and at the end of this thing, you guys tell me if you think we should do it or not. And if you think we shouldn't do it, I'm not doing it. But if you think we should, then I'm going to have to consider it, right? So we got, he came there, and I mean, he was just all over everybody, asking questions. His guys were asking questions. And when the event ended, at the end of the event, the meeting after the meeting by the fire pit, there was Gene, myself, Scott Lewis, Brent, James, the other guy. And so there was like 6 or 7 of us sitting around the fireplace. We had cigars for the people that wanted cigars. And we're just talking and, you know, like dreaming, talking about what's happening going on. And so we finally asked Brent, so Brent, and this is a guy's doing $150 million a year in sales, right? So it's a big deal. And we said, so what do you think? And he looked at his two guys and said, what do you guys think? You interrogated everybody. Tell me what you thought. And they said, you're crazy if you don't do this. Everybody loves it. It's fantastic. The energy is super. We've invited we can't find a hole in anything. We think that you should do it. And Brent said, okay, well then I'm probably going to have to. And that was the middle to the end of October. On November 1st, he transferred everything. So he joined November 1st, right?
Wow.
And started right then, you know, taking off. So it started taking off. And so I had 600 in November, and by December there were 700. So you say to me to get to 500 from when I started really hitting it in May, 1, 2, I took a vacation, 3, 4, 5 months, right? 5 months to 500, and then it just kept going. I had no idea that today I would have over 4,000 agents on my 7th level alone. I had no idea that I would have over 13,000 agents that I'm getting paid on, almost 500 that are in my 7 levels. I had no idea that in excess of 30,000 agents would be at the company because of the ones we put together. Even more people, probably 20,000 of them passed my 7th level, right? I had no idea it was going to go to where it is. And today, my goal was 500 in 3 years. Well, today we have more than that joining our 7 levels every single month, right? And I had no idea it would get to that. I really didn't. And now I can't imagine it not. Now I look at people that I work with, and we've helped dozens of people get to 500. We've helped people get to 5,000, and we've helped people. I mean, Sheila, I think's got 7,000, and I think Brent's got 9,500. I think Cliff Freeman's got almost 5,000, and I have, and from all the people, all I ever did was average about 2 a month. In fact, I only sponsored, and by the way, of those 22 that I sponsored that first year, 2 of them quit. So I had 20, right? And it turns out I've personally enrolled 20 a year, like 1 or 2 a month, 1 or 2 steady. I've done that for 5 years straight. So that is, about 100 agents I've personally enrolled. Maybe I think the actual number is 114, right? But of those 114 that I've enrolled, here's the big kick. 6 of them are responsible for 30,000 agents. Right? So it isn't like everybody does something. A lot of people have 1 or 2, people have quit. Of those 114 I've enrolled, I have 60 left, right? So there's, what's that, 59 or 60, 59 that have quit. I have 60 that are still with us. Some people quit the industry altogether because I was looking for people with a good attitude. I was not looking for, superstars. I was looking for people, and I wanted to know who they knew. I was in Texas. I didn't know anybody. We just moved there, and I found Gene. And so I had been out of the industry for 15 years. I would just move to a new state. I didn't know anybody. And so my whole deal was, what am I going to do? How am I going to go about meeting people in an industry that I haven't been part of for 15 years, right? I'd been living residuals for that long. And so I had to go meet people. And the thing that I did was I went to my affiliates, and 70% of all the people I've ever enrolled in both Keller Williams and eXp have come from and because of affiliates, right? In fact, I got Sheila fed. What happened was I was doing a presentation for Wilco, right? And Wilco had enrolled an agent that was doing like 70 transactions a year, and she had a favorite mortgage person, and he was allowing us to use his conference room to do the lunch and learn. And we had a title company that came in with the lunch, and he provided the office. But he never stayed for the presentation, right? He always left. And I said to him, will you do me a favor? Will you stay one time and watch this presentation so you really know what it's all about? Because you've been helping and supporting us, and you don't even know why. You're just doing it for this one agent who you do a lot of loans with. But I want you to really see what we've got a hold of. And so he said, all right, he would stay. And he stayed. And at the end of the presentation, he said, this is incredible for agents. He said, you need to show this to a lot more people. I'm going to get you an appointment with such and such over at such and such school, and I think you should be doing presentations at the school. And I thought, oh, that's great. All right, fine. So he set it up. I went to meet the people at the school, and they said, you can't do presentations at the school, right? But you can sponsor a lunch, and we have classes, and if you bring food, and at the lunch break, the people come and get the food, you can talk to them during the lunch break. But once the class starts, you got to be done. But you have to buy food for them. And, and I said, okay. And so I did my first one, and I went there, and I was able to talk to about 12. people that stayed there. And one of them came up to me afterwards and said, I'm really kind of interested in what you have to say. Is there any way we can get together and you can go over it more? And that turned out to be Sheila Fedgeron. And the only reason I met her was because this affiliate guy who finally saw it referred me to be able to get to talk to someone he said you need to hear. So Brent, right now, of all the people joining my organization, 50% of them every month, if I have 700 agents joining a month, 350 of them are joining on my 7th level. And 25% of them are joining on my 6th level, and the other 25% are joining between my 2nd and 5th, right? That's how it goes out. So of Brent's 9,500 agents, probably 4,000 of them are on his 6th and 7th level that I don't touch, right? Because I only get paid on his first 5. So that means about 5,000 of them came from Brent, right? And Sheila's got several hundred on top of that. And so, maybe 6,000 of my 13,000 are responsible from that one guy who set me up with a chance to talk that I would never have known, and Sheila said to me, I don't know what made me stay for that, but I never stay for the lunch break. I always go somewhere else, but something told me I should stay today. I mean, how do you explain that, right? And so, I mean, that's how that started happening, and it was, really kind of interesting. So I had, when you say, what did I do? I want to make sure I answer those questions that you have instead of just rambling. How long
Rob,
did
you're doing awesome. It's incredible. Thank you for sharing this story. I've heard bits and parts of that story, but you filled in a lot of the blanks there. Totally amazing.
All right. So how long did it take you? It took me basically 5 months, right?
5 months to get to, yeah.
And a lot of that was other people doing stuff. Most of the people didn't do much. How hard did I work? I worked really, really hard in May and June. I probably did 4 or 5 presentations a day during those 2 months. And when I enrolled, just to give you an example, when I enrolled Wilco Ravison, who was a soccer coach, right? A lot of people know him now. You should if you don't. He was new to real estate, had just gotten his license, and I showed him this, and only because his broker was in Houston and didn't want to join the board in Dallas, so he was looking for another broker. He mentioned that to me, and I said, well, you should see what I'm doing, and I mean, eXp is possible. And he says, what does it cost a month? I told him. He says, that's worth it. I can do that. I mean, that was my whole presentation to Wilco, right? And then he joined. He was one of the 4, right?
Really?
And so, yeah. And then, or he may have been that 5th one, I think, in April. Yeah. The one there. And he said, well, I can't talk to agents. They don't know. I don't know anything. I've never sold a house. I've never been in real estate. Why would they listen to me? And I said, they won't. They don't want to listen to you. But I wrote them out a script, and I said, if you say this to them, they'll want to meet me. And that's all you got to do is set up appointments. He says, well, I don't know if I know anybody. And I said, well, go through your social media and see how many people that you know that are friends of yours that are real estate people. And it turns out he was a coach. He wasn't just a soccer coach. He was running a soccer league. He had 1,000 kids in that league, and he had, 20 coaches, and it was a pretty big deal. And so we looked through his social media, and there was over 100 real estate agents that were that he knew as parents. That's all. Coach, he didn't know them as real estate people. And so the next month, he set up 42 presentations. 42. And he worked me to death. He'd pick me up and say, okay, I'm going to pick you up at 6 in the morning. We're going to drive over to so-and-so place. He said, I've got 4 or 5 presentations for you to do. And I did about 40 presentations for him. I think we sponsored 20 of them for him. And then he started saying, and he started interrupting me. In the beginning, he was quiet. I said, just don't say anything, be quiet, and I'll do the presentation. don't screw it up, I would say. And so then we'd do the meeting and he'd be quiet for the first 10 or 12. But like on the 14th or 15th one, he started butting in.
Yeah.
And it was like, dude, shut up. I'm doing this. Right. And he said, yeah, but you forgot this. Why don't you tell him this? Why don't you tell him that? And I go, yeah, okay. And all right, fine. And then after I got done with that month, this is really funny. He set up a whole bunch more presentations, but he was interrupting me so much that I said, and I look at it as a good thing now because I said,
that's a great thing, Rob. You dream of that, right? We dream of this.
I dream of it, yeah. And so I said, but he was afraid to do a presentation because, he didn't have any experience and he just thought, but he couldn't hold himself back. So I said, the only way I'm going to do this is force him to do a presentation. And if I tell him in advance he won't show up, he'll just cancel it. So I set up a meeting and I said, I'll meet you over at so-and-so, such and such a day. And he went there and the person was there and he was panicking because I wasn't there yet. 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. And so finally I called him and said, dude, I can't, you're going to have to go to plan B. I'm not going to be able to make it. He goes, plan B, what's that? I said, you do the presentation. And I hung up. Oh, God, right? And so he did the presentation and the people joined.
Yes.
And that changed his life. And now, he's got almost 1,000 agents on his team now, right? And he's living residual income now. He's doing things. He's taking trips for months at a time with his family back to Holland, meeting all his relatives and getting his kids to know, their grandparents and stuff. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. What's happened affecting people's lives.
What was that script that you wrote out for him?
Oh, I told him that I said there's a new platform in real estate that is driven by technology that is changing the way real estate agents are compensated dramatically. It's affecting the whole industry. And I have a guy who has created, who's a real estate agent, who's created a residual income driven lifestyle in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year through real estate. And I'd like to see about you getting together with him.
That is gold.
Right? And so that's what he did. He did that over and over and over and over again. And then he just got his own words. And he's probably better than I am at setting up appointments and, making phone calls, because everybody he's ever enrolled is somebody that he's met somewhere or was referred to by someone. It was Wilco, actually, that told me, don't ask people if they're real estate agents. If they're not real estate agents, oh, well, you don't talk to them. He said, every single person probably knows a real estate agent or should. He said, why don't you ask the people you meet what you do for a living? And what we found was the more successful people are, if they're really successful, they have a doctor, they have a lawyer, they have an accountant, they have a house cleaner, they have a real estate agent. They have those 5 people in their life. And so I would say, hey, you seem to be pretty successful. Do you consider yourself successful? And they go, well, yeah, what do you mean? I said, well, I have found that I'm looking to expand my real estate business. We've got a brand new platform that's driven by technology, that's dramatically changing the industry, especially the way real estate agents are compensated. And I said, I'm looking for some really sharp real estate agents. Who do you know that you can refer me to? And they would name off 2 or 3, right? But what I found was if I talked to a really successful person, they knew really successful realtors. If I talked to a homeless person, they referred me to homeless realtors. So I wanted to say, are you successful, right? It was just, it's not rocket science. I was never, So what action items did I consistently perform? I consistently went out and met people and did presentations. I did that consistently, tried to do as many as I could. Was it hard? What was hard? For me, calling people, I hated the phone. I'm much better in person, one-on-one, face-to-face, belly-to-belly. On the phone, I don't like it. I'm nervous. It's so funny, I'm a lot better at it now, of course, but I used to be scared to death. That was hard. What was easy? What was easy was finding out about other people, asking them questions about them, and then showing them how to get their life. I would say to agents, I said, play a little game with me. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how long have you been in real estate? And they would tell me. and 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And I said, are you still as excited about it today as the first time you got your license and showed your first house? I mean, do you wake up in the morning and go, man, I am so glad I'm doing this, or do you wake up and go, oh, another day? I mean, what's your attitude, right? I just want to see where they were at. And then they would tell me, and I'd say, well, listen to this. On a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 was incredible and 1 was sucked, what grade would you give your career today? And most people would say 6 or 7. And so I say, all right, cool. I said, what would make it a 10 in your life? I mean, you're a 6 or 7, that's cool. What would make it a 10? And they would most of them would say, I'd like to sell more houses. And so I would say back to them, sell more houses. So in other words, you just want to work harder? And they go, no. I said, well, what? I mean, it sounds like you just want to work more. And they go, no, I want to make more money. If I sell more houses, oh, well, why don't you say that? Just say, I would like to make more money. Okay, well, I can understand that because I have found that I can make more money, but I don't have to work harder. If I work smarter, I can make more money and work less. How do you feel about that? And just see what they said, right? And I said, well, what would make it a 10? And they would tell me. And I said, all right, so what would make it a 10 plus? And they would say, well, I'd like to, work less hours, make more money. I said, that's cool. And what's even better than that? What would be a 10 plus plus? And I'd say, well, if I was making a ton of money and not working at all, I guess that would be yeah, okay. And I said, so I would say to them, so tell me this. In the last 3 to 6 months, who at your current company has sat down with you and helped you develop your 10 plus business? And they look at me like, it's never happened. No, never. Oh, really? I said, well, I have a mentor who's taking me through that process and I'm right on schedule. Would you be offended if I connected the two of you and maybe he could help you like he's helping me? And that worked wonders because when I said, well, can I have somebody call you? Oh, no. Don't have anyone call me. I don't want to be called or sold. So I quit saying that. I would say, would you be offended if I was able to connect you? And they would say, well, no, I wouldn't be offended at all. I said, great. What's the best way if I find that person? My mentor, what's the best way for my mentor to get in touch with you? Phone, text, email, whatever. And then I would get their information, whereas before they wouldn't say anything. And I just made a habit of that all the time. And I would put that on the back of their card, and I had a fishbowl. And when it was my calling day, I would reach my hand in there of all the cards I'd met. I would yank one out and say, this is your lucky day. Let's say if you can see the opportunity. And I would call that person. And I would set an appointment. I made it a game. For me, it was just a game. Does that make sense? Here's the last question. How has those first 500 paid off today? Well, I can tell you, 2.5 years ago, my rev share exceeded $100,000 a week. 2.5 years ago. I was 2.5 years into it because my first year got to 700. You can see the exact numbers. I mean, those are the numbers, right? My second year, I enrolled another 20, and the 700 turned into 3,000. My third year, I enrolled another 20. I can't get past that hump. And third year, I ended up with 7,000. And then the fourth year, I put in another 20, and I got, I was up to 10,000. And then this year, I'm up to almost 14,000. And what's interesting is everybody in those 6 agents that I enrolled that led me to the 30,000, 5 of them joined in that first year, right?
Yep.
Scott Lewis, Wilco, Sherry Elliott, Sheila, right? And then Sean Sturrock joined after that. He joined in the next year. But Sean Sturrock's got 1,500 agents, now. And Sean was a new guy, wasn't even a real estate agent. What he saw was, he said, I know you're an investor. I got a little extra money. You got any hot tips on a stock?
Yeah.
And I said, well, Sean, yeah, there's this EXPI you should check out. I think the stock was $1 or less at that time. And he said, what kind of stock is it? I said, it's real estate related. And he said, you wouldn't happen to have anything to do with it, would you? And I said, yeah, a little bit, I think I do. So he said, all right. And he left and he went and bought some stock, right?
Uh-huh.
couple months later, he came back to me and he said, "Hey, Rob, you got to tell me about this eXp company. This stock is beating every stock in my portfolio." And I said, "Okay." And so he's asking me a million questions. And I said, "Well, why don't you just sit in on a presentation that I'm doing so you can see what's happening, and then we can talk." And he goes, "Okay." He was not a real estate agent. So then he watched it. And then he said to me, "Do you mean to tell me that if I was to get my real estate license, all that would be, I could do all that?" And I said, "Yes, you could." And he said, "And you would teach him, and you're the number one guy?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "And you would teach me?" "Yes." And he said, "I'll be stupid not to do that." And he went, and a couple months later, he called me and said, "I got it." I said, "Got what?" I forgot all about it. And he said, "I got my real estate license." I said, "Why?" You know, and he said, "Because I want to do what you do. Would you teach me?" And so I said, "Sure." I started working with him. And so today, Sean has like 35 agents personally enrolled. He's got almost 1,600 on his team. He's making just shy of $70,000 a month now in revenue share. And I think he's done 3 leases. He's never sold a house to this day. He did do a lease for his daughter, I think a lease for a friend, and his own lease, you know. And so he doesn't count as an FLQA for me.
Nope.
But he's got over 1,600 agents, you know, that are part of it. Although I hear that they're going to make that change. You know, if they've got 10 agents personally enrolled and over 100 or over 200 in their first couple of levels, he's got way beyond that.
Right.
He will count eventually when they decide to go. I've got several people, you know, that are like that.
Right.
So how have they paid off today? Immeasurably. I mean, those 500 have led me to 30,000, and it's still, now we're going internationally.
Yeah.
I hear Jason said to me that they're hoping after the first of the year to start including in our back office all the international people as well, right?
Yeah.
So my numbers may jump,
Yeah.
you know, up, but I think at the rate things are going now, I'll finish 2021, which I think and is going to be an incredible great year. I mean, during COVID, we grew almost 4,000, right? I mean, just in my 7 levels, because those are the ones you're paid on, right? But more than twice that overall. But I think, you know, what do those 500 do? I think next year, which will be my 6th year, we'll approach 20,000 agents in the 7 levels. And I can't tell you what that's worth. I don't know, you know, it's just, and then what's happening is the talent of people coming aboard has been staggering, like yourself and the people that you're bringing, Tom. I've never seen anything like it. I never envisioned people of your caliber and above would be coming and joining us on this little picnic of ours. And it's just we're just growing great momentum. I built it with the rank and file, the everyman, the every agent, the people that did $1 million. My big agents did 2 million. A lot of the people I sponsored had never been in real estate before. 2 of them, I have over 3,000 agents because of 2 guys that never were in real estate. Right. You know, so I mean, I look for attitude. I look for positive mindedness, like I told you. I look for people that are willing to learn. I look for people that are coachable and teachable. I look for people that don't try and reinvent the wheel, that utilize the system. You know, I look for people that take action. I look for people that enjoy working with me, and I enjoy working with them. I guess that sort of sums it up.
That sums it up. That was so awesome. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate you.